Welcome to Drive Time Exchange. As rubber hits the road, hard talk meets great music. Monday to Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m. on Nett Radio, taking you above and beyond.
Dear promoter, dear promoter. You see that trust in there? Keep that. You see that curtain there? Keep that. We don't need your fancy stage, brother. Once that trinity reach in your vet is nice days. Boy, boy. Hands in the sky, we bring the vibes. Once we reach in your vet is nice days. Yeah, boy, boy. They can't deny we bring the vibes. And I don't mean to be bossy, but they can't party like we. One from man so got there, but for sure I treat it. They can't party like we. Don't matter time or day, we can start it anyway. Oh gosh, oh child, feel like you're ready, sweet and so man, oh man, oh man, yeah. Oh Lord, mama, together means that the love is so strong, oh Lord, 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 and we don't care. This kind of energy, Lord, it great. Watch how every hand up in the air, yeah. So we go turn up the place, we go shop the place. Once that tree reaching your bed is nice days. Boy, boy, hands in the sky, we bring the vibes. Once we reach in your bed is nice days. Yeah, boy, boy, they can't deny we bring the vibes. And I don't mean to be bossy, but they can't party like we. One from man so got there, but for sure I treat it. They can't party like we. Don't matter time or day, we could start it anyway. Watch the vibe we bring, with the baddest thing. I could put my head on a block, eh? But the hardest thing, once we start this thing, yeah.
So we say a very special good afternoon to you wherever you may be, Trinidad and Tobago, up and down the Eastern Caribbean. Or if you're streaming all around this globe, so happy are we to have you here on New Era TT Radio, the heartbeat of the Caribbean, as we take you above and beyond. Of course, this is where we welcome you inside the afternoon Drive Time Exchange. And our host is none other than journalist extraordinaire, Mr. Tony Fraser. Tony, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon to you, Charlo. That music make me feel that I could still do a little thing on the floor, you know, but I ain't too sure.
I am
guess
sure
might
that you
laugh
can.
at me here, you know, but it sounds invigorating and enticing, but I will stay away from it. I will leave it up to people like Paige De Leon to show us some motion on the floor. Right, so we have Paige there already. Hi, Paige, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon to you, Tony. And is that Charles in the background that I hear?
It is. If I was
that
closer
picture
to
you looks lovely, Paige. Let's see the real thing, man. Come on.
Well, you know, Mr. Fraser, Mr. Charles, listeners, viewers, I was not told that this was going to be an in-camera interview. I was told radio, so I am unprepared. And I will leave you with a lovely photograph. It is, in fact, an accurate likeness of me.
Painful. But,
yeah.
all right.
Don't worry. We do
Paige,
understand.
Anyone else we have on camera just yet? Charlo?
Actually, no. But as they come in, I will let you know.
Okay. So the subject this afternoon is easily predictable. One that has been engaging us over the last week or so since the incident happened, the Great Vibes Cartel, and I am going on the basis of what people tell me about his music, being not of that generation to enjoy it and imbibe it fully, but I go with what I have been told. And we all know the story seriously, is that he was scheduled to perform in Trinidad in a show that had other foreign artists and local artists in it. And he did not, because the what was left of his fee, some 1.3 million US dollars, was not paid, meaning that he got reportedly, and I don't know anymore, and what has been carried in the media is that he got some 950,000 US dollars upfront, and the rest of it was supposed to be paid, 1.3 total. So that leaves us with what, $350,000 US not paid, and therefore he refused to take the stage because the payment was not made. So that's the core of the story. I see another participant, Aston Isaac, coming on there, and hopefully he will show us his face so we see him live on the camera. Aston is a multi-talented somebody who I met on the telephone today, and we talked about his participation in the program. Among other things, he is I don't know if the title is president of COT, the copyright people, but he tells me he's a composer and all of that, and I'm sure that he's a very capable young man inside of the music. Aston, you're there?
He's muted.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. What about you? Showing your face.
Fraser, good afternoon. So,
Right. Aston, are we getting you on camera also?
yes, I'm trying to get the technicals worked out here.
All right.
Okay, no problem. At least you have
Just
the audio for now.
We have some other people. We have Randy Glasgow, the promoter. We have supposed to have a couple of Calypsonians, Hamidullah and Ras Commander, who are supposed to be on with us this afternoon. So as I was saying, that the elements of what is known, and I'm sure that there are some things which are not yet known, are quite familiar to people who are in the know and who have been following the thing. The man didn't get his all of his money, and therefore he refused to perform. I have a question about that we will get into a little bit later in the program. But let me start with Paige De Leon. And Paige, if I am correct, Paige represents the promoters. There must be a promoters association, and Paige is somebody who represents them. Paige, of course, used to be a colleague in the media some time ago, but she gave up that hard work with little pay and little whatever else for something far more beneficial to her. Right, Paige?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Tony, and thanks to all of your other guests. Yes, I am in fact the advocate for the Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association. Just a bit of background, the association is approximately 7 years old. Next year we will be celebrating 8 years of our formal existence. And the purpose of the association is primarily to represent the interests of the event production sector in Trinidad and Tobago to all of our stakeholders, to have dialogue and conversation, and to ensure that we support the growth of a healthy environment in Trinidad and Tobago for this group of entrepreneurs that daily become more and more important to the economic lifeblood of Trinidad and Tobago.
Paige, I must say you sound like a good representative of the promoters.
I hope I am.
I am sure that you are. Paige has a wonderful, glorious background in media, but we will talk about that perhaps at another point in time. So, Aston, are you ready for us? Your introductory statement, giving our listeners some kind of appreciation of who you are and what are the interests that you represent. Well, he must still be struggling with the technology, so we give him...
I'm still struggling with the video. Good afternoon, everyone.
All right. You can continue on your audio until you get...
Yeah, I'll continue on the audio.
So give us...
good afternoon, everyone.
Give our listeners an
I'm happy to be
appreciation
here.
of who you are and how you fit into this puzzle, as it were.
Well, I am currently serving as the executive president of the Trinidad and Tobago Copyright Collection Organization. So we are predominantly responsible for the protection of works, music works, works of mass, which represents mass costuming, etc., and image rights for creatives throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Outside of that, I've been a practicing entertainer and an academic. And I believe that the core value of the development of our creative sector really lies in the individuals who are the participants having open, clear, and distinct communication geared around a set of clear objectives and goals so that we can achieve a level of national cultural development. So I'm here in that capacity. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I read some of what you have said about this whole incident, and indeed beyond the incident, really putting the matter into a framework for discussion on understanding and discussion as we go along. So let's, as we continue to encourage those persons who gave their commitment to be on the program, Randy Glasgow, Ras Commander, and Hamidullah, to join the program. As indicated, you have the Zoom contact, so you should be in touch with us soon. So let me start with Paige. Seriously, what is your take, or what is the take of the Promoters Association on this? I am about to say miscarriage, but maybe that's a bad connotation. This sense of non-fulfillment, not merely to the promoters and the artists, but really to those people who paid good money to see and hear Vibes Cartel and did not. Why?
Event production is a very, very risky business. The carrier of this risk is the event producer. From the very beginning to the very end, they carry all of the risk. They also carry all of the reward. Entrepreneurs always tell you that they are always 2 decisions away from catastrophe. Unfortunately, this was, we can say, a catastrophe. And we have made very clear our deep concern about the way that this has played out for all of the stakeholders involved. We are concerned because it doesn't just impact the event producer. It doesn't just impact those who bought tickets. It doesn't just impact all of the service providers who no doubt will also feel pain as a consequence of this misalliance of people throughout the chain of this business model. But more than that, we are concerned for brand Trinidad and Tobago. And we were very clear in our initial analysis that what we need to do is to take the opportunity to push for reform of our sector, legislative reform, policy reform, perception reform, practice reform. That is where we are. So that the thing has happened, the thing did not happen well, and we now need to ensure that incidents like this are minimized via our own work and graft to make sure that we do the right things in the right way and that fit for purpose structures are set up for what is today's event sector. In today's world, artists charge what they charge. There are other artists around the world who charge a lot more than Vibes Cartel. He's not the most expensive artist on planet Earth, but he is one of the most well-liked and loved artists in the Caribbean. And we are proud to be able to say that we can, in fact, support that type of artist and that type of show in our country and do well. Normally, this is a place where we shine. We did not shine, and we must learn from it. But what we must not do is to destroy the entire industry as a consequence of one scenario, 2 scenarios, 3 scenarios that went wrong when the rest usually go right.
Paige, that's a nice statement to make. However, it does not touch the real problem. The real problem was that a commitment was made, and the promoter or promoters, for whatever reason, were not able to fulfill that commitment. And the question is why? Why was it? We can talk about whether it was $1 million or 10 million or $50,000. But we talk about a commitment that was made by a promoter, and that commitment was not able to. Was it slackness? Was it a fault of the central bank? I heard that somebody said, the holiday came in between gathering the monies. That is an excuse which holds no water. The public holiday, the date of it was not a secret to anybody. So what I am attempting to get at, and I presume that you've spoken to the individual promoter or promoters, the team, what went wrong?
The promoter in question is not a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association. And just to go back a bit and give some context, in the statement we did make that very clear very early on. We have in the past refrained from making comments about event producers that are not members of our association for the very reason that you are raising. We are not in a position to give information about the practices that led to something like this because we are not in communication with this particular promoter. He is not a member of our group. But because this thing became so traumatic for the society, we felt we needed to say something. And it is because we don't want to be asked the question that you just asked when we cannot answer it that we usually don't comment on non-members' issues. But this one required a comment. And so the approach we have taken is the one that I proposed. If we had fit for purpose legislation that was very specific to our industry, that supported practitioners with guiding steps and principles, then it is likely that we would not even need to ask what happened. We would know because these are the steps. You do X, you do Y, you do Z, and you get to point A or to point B. That is not the way it is set up now. And that is why we need to make sure that it's set up in a way that is very transparent so we can answer these questions on our own and things like this are less likely to happen.
Well, I suppose for the purpose of this program, the error is with me because my assumption is sometimes when you make uninformed assumptions, you get stuck for it. My assumption was that the person or group was a member of the association, and therefore that's why I asked you as representative to come on board and talk about the situation. So, maybe at another point in time, we can talk with if the person. I have seen some quotes from the organization in the newspapers, but it would be great to hear from the individuals involved as to why this has happened. So let me go to Mr. Isaac to talk for his take on this whole situation as a performer, as an administrator. How do you look on this episode that has transpired in front of us?
Well, first, I got the video up now. My humble view is that, and I sort of concur with some aspects of Ms. De Leon's statement, that in the absence of organized membership organizations having the teeth, as you would say, or associations having the teeth to work with individual promotions, gaps like these will occur. But I think we should take this from the genesis of where the real issue lies, in my humble view, Mr. Fraser, regarding the chronic problem, and this is where I disagree with Ms. Dillon a bit. I believe it's a chronic problem of promotion. There has been quite significant gaps in the way that our promoters have been able to engage international acts. And we have seen recently quite an upsurge in squabbles, miscommunications, cancellations, non-payments, online quarreling and disputes and requests to clear the air. This has occurred numerous times over the last 5 to 7 years, I would say. I don't want to call the individual promoters.
So last time,
yes.
this is not a one-shot business.
I do not believe. We need to be honest. This is not a one-shot incident. This is certainly not. It seems to be a chronic state, not only within the local landscape, but also within the attempts to bring in foreign acts. So from a local standpoint, we have seen cancellations and squabbles and issues with artists and promoters and behind the door operation. And Ms. DeLeon, I don't know if you are very much deeply involved in the day-to-day operation of some of these events and the relationship between event promoters and artists, and that has existed for some years. That has actually been a catalyst for some artists to create their own shows because of the breakdown in that communication. So I think it is not very it's not pretty much on point to say that it's something that recently happened. What we are seeing here, I agree with you that the legislative amendments are required, but what we are seeing here is a continued breakdown of the cultural sector because of the lack of structure. And that lack of structure doesn't only come from regulating promotions, but it comes from regulating the structures required to nurture and create talent development funnels, to create entrepreneurship development funnels for individual promoters, for upstarts in communities. And I believe that on the topic of promotion, I would lean very heavily to the promotion of carnival culture, as it is our culture, and the core responsibility and the correlation between that responsibility and the NCC. So it's very systemic in terms of the issues that we have. I do not believe it's service level. And I was trying to send you a message here of a contact, so that you could have gotten that contact, which I will send to you during the course, so that you could probably reach out to the promoter as well. Because I did have several conversations with him, which I think that anyone could have. I think it would prejudice him to speak on his behalf. But there's a lot more that lies below the surface.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot deeper, and we need to be honest about the depth at which this travesty would have occurred. Yeah.
You know, I had asked Hamidullah and
Hamidullah Wahid.
Yeah.
I sang with him in
Amanda to come on the program because in my conversations with them to persuade them to come on the program, they expressed some of those concerns because they themselves have been victims of this non-payment after promises. And I just see Hamidullah on the screen now. So that rather than me attempting to speak for him, I will ask him, Hamidullah, how are you, my friend? You got to take off your take off the.
Unmute your microphone and
unmute your microphone.
And put on the camera. Let us see you, Hammy.
Hamidullah, you're not a man afraid of the camera, are you? You're a man on stage. Maybe he's fighting some technical problem. So just let me say that he expressed to me some concerns, some personal concerns, experiences that he has gone through himself and suffered the fate. Of course, he's not Vibes Cartel, so that will not headline the newspaper the following day. But nevertheless, in support of what Mr. Isaac Aston has said, it is part of a trend. Let me ask Paige DeLeon if that is something that she's aware of, that artists complain that they make arrangements with promoters and then I've heard them already to come to the performer after and say, boy, we make so much money, you know, you want to tell a little something there and wait. So that is what I have experienced from talking to people like Hamidullah. He's now on the screen. How are you, my friend?
Hi there, my brother. Thank you very much for the invite.
Yeah, and I was telling our audience and your fellow panelists that you're a man, not a stranger to what had transpired with Vibes Cartel. Tell us your story.
Well,
Sorry. My fault. I didn't introduce you properly. A man, a calypsonian who has been performing for a long time in the tents at shows, and he has a great piece about two little pieces of matchstick, which we will talk about. So go ahead, my friend. Your experiences.
Well, let me thank you and all who put the platform together for the opportunity to express my view with respect to the situation right there. Let me first start by saying I don't have all the facts to adjudicate on the matter, but as you asked, I could express from my own position with respect to having worked with promoters throughout the Caribbean and to some extent North America and Trinidad and Tobago, how I have been treated. Now, not everybody is the same thing, but clearly we have a serious situation with respect to, and on both sides of the fence, both the artists and the promoters need to do better because we need one another, and so too is the audience that makes all of us. But for some reason or the other, we from time to time drop the ball. In my own case, I had some good experience with some promoters. I had some very bad ones where we make an agreement and they didn't come up and that kind of thing. I was very disappointed, you know. So I think I could leave myself in that space. I don't want to detail and call probably names and that kind of thing, but clearly the playing field is not really nice with respect to how we as artists are being treated, and also from times how we just treat the promoters. You see, the point I make is supposed to be a balance because we have to respect the audience that makes all of us. Yeah?
Yes, go ahead. I'm allowing you to say, give us some details of the fate that you've suffered without calling names and
all
so
right.
on.
Yeah, I've seen it certain parts of North America in particular. I remember I'm doing a show one time at a place called Riscott Manor, and I wasn't paid. The night in question, the promoter was right there and more or less woke up and leave me very much stranded. I had a fend for myself. That's about the worst experience I had. In Trinidad here, I've been contracted, you know, and at the end of the day, I ain't get paid. You know, and that's the extent of it, that the accommodation I think is poor. Sometimes even you offer yourself, let me say, below your standard. And even a drink of water you can't get. So clearly, as I'm making the point that there should be a better understanding with both the promoter and the artist, because the audience is what keeps all of us alive. And when we go out there, we go to satisfy the audience. Yeah. So I don't want to go into details and call names, but clearly it's not nice. Big name promoters in this country have no respect for the artists, particularly in the at a certain level. You know, how you call the headliners, and like I might consider myself to be a filler that they used to fill. If you understand what I said, to hold the space for the bigger people come on board and that kind of thing. We at that end of the ladder treated very shabbily, very badly, a lot of us. Yeah.
Of course, you're unlikely to try that on a Marshall or a Kess.
But yeah, because they have a management level that have to go with them. Those of us who don't have that suffer the fate tremendously in every way. Yeah.
Okay, I see Randy Glasgow is here with us. Randy, you're there with us. Put on your camera so that we see your face.
Yeah, I'm here, Tony.
All right, wonderful.
Good afternoon to you and all your guests.
Right. So we're trying to go through this thing about promoter failure and so on. And we have Hamidullah who has said that this is not a one-shot business, that he has suffered from promoters not coming up to strengths with what has been promised to him in the past. Is that a common feature amongst promoters?
Well, Tony, we could speak for ourselves. And artists call us an artist promoter because we take care of our artists first, regardless to, if a show is successful or not. The first set of persons to get paid are the artists. Everybody else have to fall in line, but we ensure, because we know that's their livelihood. And if they sign up for an event, they 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 put count on that funds, the designate where that funds is going. So you can't disappoint them. So we know we have to be 100% with our artists, and that's how we have been doing it from since we got into the business. Artists always come first.
Yeah. And what would you say if you don't have the personal experience, or maybe you have the personal experience of not being able to pay the artist for one reason or the other, but you make amends in some kind of way. I'm trying to get at what could have been possible. You were not the promoter in this instance. I don't even know if you know the promoters themselves, but what could have been responsible for them reneging on such a situation, such a commitment that has been made?
I think in the Vibes Cartel scenario, the promoter and Vibes Cartel are good friends, because the promoter is a Jamaican, I understand. So they have a friendship that go way back, and it probably broke down somewhere. Probably management, running things with an iron fist. But at the look of it, it's just unfortunate. Unfortunate in a number of reasons, because I honestly felt an artist receiving $1 million US, and his fans, in Trinidad are weak him and so forth. I am kind of still shocked that he would say he's not coming, knowing that if it's 20,000 tickets sold, 23,000 tickets sold. I mean, these are his fans who haven't seen him in probably 15 years. So I am kind of disappointed in the action they took, and knowing the fact that the promoter is his childhood friend. We hearing stories while he was incarcerated. The guy used to take care of cartel household and so forth. So the relationship is there. So probably cartel management, drive a hard bargain, or the case may be, and that did it. But it's unfortunate.
Why would you say, without knowing the details, what would you say, would have been the inability of the promoter to make the payment? Is it that tickets weren't sold sufficiently, as they couldn't get the money from the bank? That is one thing I have heard. I know that you don't know the details of it, but in your experience as a promoter, what would lead a promoter to renege on such an arrangement?
The funds are not there. He probably would have used up all the ticket proceeds and so forth, and what that was available to him. When you sell ticket online, they don't release funds until after the show, like what they did this time. So that is a big chunk of the money. So he just didn't have the funds. He spoke about having the funds available in Trinidad and wherever the case may be, taking it to the US. But Vibes is in the US under certain conditions, and in the United States, if you have $10,001 in cash, that could be considered money laundering. So, with the strictness of it, they didn't take any chances of collecting any money or coming to Trinidad and having to take back 150,000 cash into the United States. That is money laundering, and that is lockup. So I can understand why they refuse to even consider taking the money in Trinidad.
Randy, I read, that there was some kind of arrangement and offer that they would hold property, Trinidad and Tobago property, in lieu, or at least on a temporary basis, until they were able to get the hard cash. Could that have been a possibility?
No, not. We don't know what is cartel, arrangement with the U.S. government. He was very fortunate to come out of jail on a murder charge, and is president living in the United States. So that would come with a number of, do's and don'ts. So, he have to play it safe. If you have to get money, if you have to get whatever, you have to declare to the IRS, because it could be seen as you're trying to evade taxes, you're trying to money launder. there's a lot of indication, and I know it. So I can see why, getting a house and getting that's not interesting to them at all. I don't have the case. They have to stay far from that because the IRS could pick up whatever it is that you're trying to evade stuff, and probably deport you. So I understand in the situation in that regard, could fully understand why at all point he said no to any negotiation with cash or in kind or whatever the case may be. Everything, that amount of money must pass through your account, must be wired to your account, and that's how it is.
I see Hamid, Hamidullah wants to say something. Come in, my friend.
No, I want to say not too much. I'll listen to Randy, and I'm happy that to hear Randy's position, because clearly, like I start by saying, the details of the situation I don't have. What I want to say, clearly, Randy to me is one of the people and them who is very honorable as a promoter. From all the reports I was on the ground and watching him operate, I want to take my hat off to Randy as one of the genuine promoters we have. That's all I want to say right now. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for the good words. And if I can, Tony, if you allow me to get a little up here, we made ourselves available to be part of the NCC board if it's a chairman or a member and so forth. And I wish Hamidullah could give an endorsement. We feel we are best positioned to transform the National Carnival Commission into something that Trinidad and Tobago will be proud of. I think for many, many years, government after government have pumped, billions of dollars into the carnival. And really and truly, nobody could show us anything substantial that, Carnival made money for our country. You always hear talk after the event, 600 million was spent, but there's never any hard evidence. And we have some ideas to transform the thing, because we would have observed, although we doing our thing and busy, we kept our eye on NCC and how things was done. And we could safely see, from our estimation, over $100 million per season, per year is spent on unnecessary buildings and wherever it is that should be trickling down to our artists. And that is something that we would surely address, because, it's kind of unfortunate where you're seeing our artists who dedicate their whole lives to our culture and country, and they're dying in poverty. They're dying with no inheritance to leave for their families and so forth, because, all this money collected at Carnival or given to NCC, as the case may be, ended up in the wrong hands. So that is something that has to be fixed. No North Stand, the money saved, you will increase Panama price to $2 million. Things like that. Because the money is in the system, and you don't have to go to government to get money to pay more for your Calypso Monarch or the case maybe. The money is there, but the money is in the wrong hands, going in the wrong places. And we can identify.
Randy, we're going to come back to that, because I want to talk to also about the payment of foreign artists as opposed to local artists, and people about the market and so on and so on. But let me ask the question of Tony will do, right?
Well, I say good afternoon to Randy. Nice to have you on the program.
And I am saying to you, Tony is my name, so I can live with it.
Hamidullah. I sang Calypso in Calypso 10 in Classic Russo with Hamidullah for some years. Guidance, so he knows me as Guidance, the Calypsonian. So Hamid, is nice to see you here in the conversation as well.
A dance partner. Let me ask you something that has been raised about compromise in the situation.
This is exactly what I want to share.
Yeah. Should there have been compromise in the circumstances?
So Randy, remember my statement before Randy came on? I shared with you that there are deeper considerations. I would have shared that there were very, very deep considerations. And I think Randy would have touched on some of those considerations. In my view, not being party to the transaction, but having some level of understanding, because I would have sent the promoter's contact for you there a moment ago. So if you need to get some communication from him, I think he'll be open to a conversation as well. But the reality is, the issue that has invaded the business landscape of the transaction is a personal issue. So it's difficult to put a handle on a business transaction going sour when you had a personal decision to not play ball, in other words. So a lot of reasons could be advanced, forex reasons, anti-money laundering reasons, reasons regarding accommodation, reasons regarding usage of collateral to hold. There are escrow companies that can hold on behalf without a payment actually going through directly. You can hold things in escrow. Even the ticketing issue regarding island tickets who would have collected and did not disburse as yet. That is traditional. It is a promotion generally. So they would retain the funds until the show comes off, and then there'll be a payment. So their guarantor position in that scenario would have possibly been under question as well, because if you've collected the resources, then you can indicate that the money is here, it's in our coffers. And I think this is why Ms. De Leon was alluding to the importance of having some legislative framework, because a guarantee coming simply from a ticketing gateway, if I've collected, let's say, Randy threw out a figure, 23,000 persons purchasing tickets, and an average of 675, putting out $20 million on an event, 13/7 for the artist. It means I have to have 30,000 people in that crowd at a mid-range at least to break even. So the mathematics in of itself were challenging mathematics. And if I would have paid you 80% and the contract stipulates possibly 100% as the case may be, or whatever the contractual terms were, I feel as though aspects of the contractual term may have been disadvantageous to the promoter. But sometimes in your eagerness to put on a show and to capture what we call in Trinidad to make a money, to make a dollar, you may forego some of the prudent decision-making processes to assess, okay, how will this contractual arrangement impact me? Yes, it is my friend. Yes, it is someone I would have worked with, who I would have had a good, deep relationship with. But if this document goes sour, how does this impact my business? So that entrepreneurial approach, and that approach in terms of what I recognize is the gap in promoters, and I'm not talking about registered promoters in the association, I'm speaking about promoters in general. And Randy may be one of the few standouts over the years, probably Cliff Harris as well, a couple others, who would have really made attempts to really genuinely work with creatives and the supporting infrastructure cast. But as far as I see it, that entrepreneurial approach in terms of assessing the cost, I would never at any point pay out of a bill of 1.3 million on a business arrangement 900,000 or 800,000, which represents more than 60% of that payment to an individual who's expected to perform without certain guarantees regarding attendance, without certain guarantees regarding visas, without certain guarantees regarding transportation arrangements. We've heard the talk circulating in the community within Jamaica. This is just public knowledge about certain ailments they felt that the cartel would have had, and how difficult that may be to manage for that size of investment. Because the reality is that he possibly could not have shown for medical reasons. That could have been a possibility. The possibility existed where he could not have shown, and his actions and operations were restricted based on the Ministers of Defense's position regarding his movement and some of the crime challenges we are having here, and the possible mobilization that can occur coming out of that. So I think as a promoter, these considerations beyond the friendship or the relationship, there has to be that entrepreneurship conversation to really have. That's the gap. A lot of professionalism. Yeah, that's the gap. The business skill set, and possibly the cost associated with engaging the persons who have the skill set to execute it. And then you have to consider the financial ability. We don't have banks in Trinidad and Tobago that finance cultural efforts. you have to have your individual company and use whatever collateralized security that you may have to create that, or you have to private finance. So promoters have that struggle to deal with, and sometimes they end up under the pressures of the financiers. So there are several considerations revolving.
Right. And what I hear you talking about is professionalization of the whole association, the profession
Yes.
of promoting and so on. I seem to have lost a page. Are you still there? You disappeared from the screen.
No, hi, I'm absolutely still here. Good afternoon, everyone.
Wonderful, wonderful. I see a Mr. Steve Pascal who has joined us. Maybe you can tell us something of yourself and where you're coming from so that we get you into the conversation. Mr. Pascal?
Yeah.
Disappeared as quickly
Right. You hear me?
Yes.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah,
Yes, boss.
That is his
Okay.
government name, eh?
This Steve Pascal, what you're alluding to, is really Ras Commander, the vice president of the group.
You're moving under a different kind of. I'm wondering who is this Steve Pascal?
That's how we just do it. That's how me and Hamidullah just do it.
All right,
okay, as I said before, good evening, everyone. Well, I think my good friend Guidance, we could go home now, you know, because he spoke it all. My grandmother, I did. My grandmother always tell me something since I'm small. And Tony, you may be a privy to this. There's something in the mortar. Or I could finish the sentence. There's something in the mortar beside the pestle, right? This event has opened the arena for discussions because my bank does tell me they could only give me 200 US, right? I have all my traveling documents and everything, and they tell me so. I found it very. I said, what? This man get this kind of US boy. So anyway, that's not my business. But the point in it is, my concern about that whole event was that Aston, you say it all, boy, Aston, boy. I was thinking about the medical part and the rationale for not coming. That was troubling my mind a lot, you know. And as I say, we wouldn't be aware. Right now, we may be speculating because the two parties may have had their understanding. I saw a video clip. I don't know if it's AI or who, but I saw something about Costa Rica going through a similar thing, and he put out a post saying that he apologized, he can't come to Costa Rica, rah, 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 rah. And there, my mind started play that game with me concerning health reasons, right? Because I'm telling you, no artist, well, maybe Kaisonian is the only type of artist that thinks so, you know. We just think what we had. I couldn't do the fans that. The fans are the people that make us, right? Besides, we might have a little talent, but the fans who does make we, the fans who buy we records, who buy with flash drive, who attend the events, it's them who does make we. And no way after getting 80% of my fee would have blanked the fans, because at the ending of the day, that could go sour. So you know, so I don't want to repeat what Aston said, but Aston really touched it. I mean, in the way what Tony talk about the professional part of it, and that is my concern about that whole event. That I don't like the treatment that was meted out to the fans. Besides the promoter, but the fans, they are the biggest. They tasted that sour seed, you know, and that wasn't good for them.
Ras, when you say Guidance, you bring out a old school line.
in the hand, boy, in the hand, Tony, you know that man.
I sang a calypso. I sang a calypso.
Okay, let's go.
Living in Yan.
Let's go to Lady Gillian. You've heard a lot about it. I'm particularly interested in your reaction to contention, and this is notwithstanding that this particular promoter is not within the group that you represent. Is what I've heard is that there is need for greater professionalism in the business. How do you react to that?
Absolutely agree 100%. That is the call that we've made. We need policy, guidelines, procedure, process to make everybody a professional in this sector. stand on business. If you have a contract, the contract says X, the contract must be fulfilled. I think I have this impression that people somehow believe that Vibes Cartel gets up in the morning, puts on his suit, jumps on stage, and performs. There has been absolutely no conversation in this view that somehow he shorted his fans to the fact that no artist is a singular entity. The way the music business operates now is that artists are a team. In some cases, there are 30, 40 people who actually make an artist able to jump on a stage and create. For years in Trinidad and Tobago, we've been calling for our artists to become more professional, to become more internationally competitive, to be able to go anywhere and perform and do as well as any other artist. That takes a team of people. Beyonce has 350 people in her team. She cannot go on a stage without every single one of those people fulfilling their role. I don't know the number of Vibes Cartel's team, but I am quite sure that his team is big enough that justifies whatever fees he's trying to pay. He's not just a single man who jumps on a stage and sings 2 songs and goes away. If his fee is not paid, it means that his staff is not paid. And I think that it's a little bit disingenuous of anybody to not take that into account when they are criticizing him or any other performer who wants to ensure that a contract is fulfilled.
But Paige, Hamidullah made the point, sorry, not Hamidullah, Ras Commander made the point that as an artist, dependent on his fans, dependent on the people who buy his music, that he should have shown some kind of form of allegiance to humanity, if you like, to the fans gathered and appeared, and perhaps, as he said, not in terms of if he was supposed to sing 10 songs, maybe he could have sung 8 or 7 or so. Is there room for that kind of humanity inside of the professionalism?
Perhaps there is, and perhaps there can be, but it truly does depend on the circumstances of this man's team. If you have 50 people that have to come with you to sing 1 song, the same 50 people have to come for you to sing 20 songs. And the whole point of making sure that there is robust, modern, fit for purpose legislation that leads us towards a proper business practice that will protect us from things like this happening means that artists have to start doing more of what Vibes Cartel did. Everybody has to start standing on business and saying, this is the contract, these are the terms. If you don't fulfill, I will not perform. If you don't fulfill, I will not pay you. It has to be like that at some point in order for the industry to become professionalized and for everybody to be protected from situations that took place. Because I think that in all of the conversations we've had, everyone agrees that these 2 gentlemen were friends. And even when Vibes Cartel made his statement, he was very clear that there was a relationship. And I would like to posit that perhaps it is that relationship and that humanity that created a problem, insofar as had he been simply doing business the way it should have been done, he would have said long ago, listen, this can't work, you can't manage, I'm pulling out. We have to start standing on the business in the industry.
Ras Commander, how do you respond to that? Ras has gone out or what? All right, let me ask.
Now mute, yes, I hear.
All right.
I'm saying
we don't see you in your full man. Don't try to see how you're doing.
I hear, brother. Miss Page, I think in going forward, yes, the promoter and the artist, they have their relationship. But what about the fans? We have to be considered within that new package arrangement, because when an artist of that caliber was advertised, that's why I went the show, right? So what in return for me? So when all the fixing, all the package, all the professionalism package, we must be considered because we are the major key in that whole show. So for example, the gentleman didn't come. I don't care about the next 10, 15 artists. I came for that special act. So I must get back my money or some kind of thing. So in going forward, we have to consider the main one of the main contenders who is the fans, because there's no show as well without the fans, you know.
All right. Ras, you raised a very important point, which I plan to ask of Randy Glasgow and Aston Isaac in that order. What happens to the 950,000 US as that was collected? Andy?
Yes.
Yeah. What happens to the money that was paid?
Well, not being privy to the contract, it will be speculation for us to say anything at all. But I would presume Vice Cartel in sending back a cent for this promoter, and that's how Jamaica operate, and Page will tell you, I feel we in Trinidad and Tobago and our country, we are the least loved people in the whole Caribbean, and we give so much. So, in going forward, we have to sort of take care of our own. What's done, we have to learn from it, but ensure we take care of our people, of our artists. Not sidetracking the discussion. There's a soca competition this year, soca champion, where the first prize was won by our brother from Grenada. And I sincerely believe that shouldn't happen again. If the government is sponsoring any competition with that amount of money, it must stay in Trinidad and Tobago. So the concept of the show have to be changed. If you want to reach out to your Caribbean brothers, have a category where you have an international category. But any big money, we have to keep it in Trinidad and Tobago, because
but Randy, hold on. We can't be so nationalistic, so pushed into our little space. Our entertainers go all over the place, Europe, the United States, and so on. And in many ways, financially, more outside of Trinidad than inside of
being saying you can't come and perform because they're here for carnival. But when there's a competition sponsored by the government, that's a different thing. No Trinidad artist could ever be invited to perform in Grenada Soca Monarch, St. Vincent Soca Monarch. The minister who do that will get fired. So they're here for carnival and they partake in a lot of events. We love them the same way, but where big money is concerned, let it stay in Trinidad and Tobago. And that have to be, the standard things. We pay big money for reggae guys. We have to change that concept. Buju Banton and all these guys, they charge hundreds of thousands of US dollars, and our promoters pay it. If a local star, they want to contract a local star, the price is always too much. So that's supposed to change. Pay our artists, what they do, what they ask for, and what you feel they would. So in a way, things happen for a reason, and this Vibe Carter situation will change how we do things in Trinidad and Tobago, I think, in the entertainment industry.
Aston, do you have a notion of where this will there be a repayment? Will there be
I am happy
partition of the money? I don't know.
I'm happy to comment. So I'm going to go with the question that you asked directly first, and I have to chat on some things with Randy. So firstly, in any contract, so if we look at a generic contractual arrangement, with a performance arrangement or booking arrangement, you would have indemnification clauses. You will obviously have clauses that would relate to if there's an issue regarding misrepresentation or fraudulent inducement, other aspects within a general framework of a contract. So there would be in that contract, definitely, without a doubt, some level of indemnification clauses. Now, the gray area, and it may turn to a legal conversation, because I don't know anyone who's willing to walk away from 950,000 US and say, well, I lost that one, without at least attempting some level of legal recourse, unless they're outright wrong. Yeah. So I anticipate that they may find some way to figure out what they need to do in that regard. But I would not rule out a possibility for the promoter seeking some level of legal redress. I think if in that instance that money would have been expensed, and these contracts have a lot of gray areas. So the indemnification clauses kind of give you some level of coverage and some level of leeway in terms of interpretation. So if there is any gray area, and a lawyer would advise the promoter, a gray area may exist based on what transpired, and he may be able to offer pursuit of that. So I'm assuming, I don't think he would have gone through the process without engaging some level of legal representative. So I anticipate that he may want to recoup that. It's only natural. It's only natural. So in that regard, and
he's into another vice, meaning a straight jacket, about repaying those people who paid to go to the show. I'm expecting to see Vibes Cartel.
Well, what I've recognized is that, as Randy would have indicated when he came on, the online ticket gateways, as well as I believe it's Caches and a couple other
outlets,
center outlets, they would have offered refunds to persons to have their full monies returned. So it means, therefore, that we can safely say that quite a large amount of money that was collected as ticket sales were not in the physical custody of the promoter. It is reasonable to come to that conclusion. And if that is the case, it means that there is some level of loss in that regard. And we are all reasonable and rational person here. So that loss, I think he's still probably reeling from the assessment. Today is what, Wednesday? No, I mean, if I lose $1 million tomorrow, I will be very, very, very sad. You mightn't see me on a program. I mightn't want to come and talk and go down on this road. I will be in a little mess for a little bit. Randy has been a promoter for years. Randy, I don't know if you ever lose $1 million US just like that.
Randy can afford that, man.
So my view is that we also have to be compassionate, and we have to also consider that regardless of the process under which we felt that the entertainer or the performer would have had a gap, or the promoter would have had a gap, that is to me, it's a Trinidad and Tobago show. It's a Trinidad and Tobago. It's registered as Vibes Cartel for Trinidad and Tobago. So it already had Trinidad and Tobago kind of wrapped into it. So the realistic thing is it looks bad on Trinidad and Tobago. So we have to look at what can we do as promoters in Trinidad and Tobago to ensure that this doesn't reoccur, because as I said, this is not an isolated incident. It occurred to some extent with the Keisha Cole matter. It occurred prior to that. We had a debacle with Acorn and the aliens. We've had these things happening year on year. Young NA, I could go on and on.
And if you are old as I am, you remember Sam Cooke.
Yeah.
Jones arranged to go to the show.
And this is why when I hear Miss DeLeon saying that we have to go down the professional line and hold the line and stand on business and so on. What has happened differently in markets where persons stand on business and they have that size of team is that team now includes an events team that replaces the responsibility and the role of a promoter, because they are now able to self-finance, so they don't need a promoter. So if it's a different system.
So Charles, who is also a performer, as a DJ, he has been playing all over the place for a long period of time. Charles, have you always been paid what was promised?
The short answer is no. and that has not changed in much. Actually, I think these days is getting worse. But yeah, a lot of people, they promise one thing, and anytime the event doesn't work out the way the promoters wanted to, I think the DJ is the first one to start to get that pay cut.
Yeah. How do you react in such situations, Sir Charles? How have you reacted?
And I have I have basically turned and walked the other direction in a lot of cases, because at the end of the day, if it all depends. Remember, I'm just a DJ, and in today's world, I'm just walking with my laptop and I'm going to do what I have to do. But if I have to engage if I'm responsible for the sound system and all the other things that goes in between there, well, then I have to make sure that those persons get paid. You understand? Even before me, So in a situation like that, if I have that kind of expense to deal with, I will make sure before I even move a muscle that a certain amount of that money is paid. If it's for me by myself, I can pick up a laptop, put it in my bag, and go home. But I can't do that for anybody else, because the song system man have workers, he have transport and all those other things. You understand? If there's a lighting guy, all these people have a lot of other things. So in that regard, as Paige says, I agree. Everybody has a production team that they're working with, and if I have to bring out the whole team to make this event happen, well, then a certain amount of money has to pass so that can happen. I'm not just going to go there without anything. Not again. I've done that.
So I think we are at the point we could take a little break. Charles can come in and do something here. Most of all, he can advertise the station. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a new station, a new venture by Sir Charles. He was at another place. We won't call the place, and the place all but shut down, and therefore in his own enterprise, he has developed this possibility online, and therefore we need to advertise it to the world, right, Charlo? Go ahead.
Definitely, and it's really wonderful that we have all these people here, different varieties of people and local entertainers in between here, because we are going to be moving into a serious time where Trinidad and Tobago transforms in a particular kind of way, and we just like all of you all to know that we're here, so we can carry our events and take it to the world, because that is what we are doing. We are streaming across the globe, and anybody looking to find us, they can find us at www.newerattradio.com, and New Era TT Radio on all the handles, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. You can find us there. And we're here, and also on TuneIn, so that all your smart devices, you can get us there. Just punch in New Era TT, and you will find us.
And I've attempted to encourage Sir Charles to adopt the slogan of a man who sold furniture many years ago, before perhaps some of the young fellas like Aston were around. He's still in short pants. I shall have it remembered, the man. I need the money. Max and Hobbs.
I need the money here.
Max and Hobbs, boy.
Yeah.
So, Charles, give me a little piece of music here in keeping with what has been said by our panelists today.
Okay.
I see she come in the bed and she looking all around and she get frightened when she see a set a man. Whoa, bada-ba-dee-da-dee-da-dee, bada-ba-dee-da-dee-da-dee, bada-ba-dee-da-dee-da-dee. Who are you going? Who are you going? Stand up there and take the jamming. Why you only looking down at your watch, girl? Make your whole body rock and take that. It's not what I the kettle fun. Back why you going round the block? When you ready from the iron drum. Right back when I hit this spot, just belt ways like betting is your profession. I go wait till you bump a confession. I'm not no sukunya, no large bless, no. Just come to get on, but come to says, yeah. Don't be afraid, girl, don't reject me. Why don't you throw it back, let we say. But the more you resist, the more they come. It's like throwing sugar on the ground and watching the ants move along. No, this is just how we party. This is how we jam. Loosen your waist and turn around. To bottom now. It's not what I make a tell, but why you going round the block? When you reading from the iron job. Right back when I hit this spot. Just belt waist like betting is your profession. I go wait till you bumper confession. I promise to take the time to respect
Nett Radio, taking you above and beyond.
If you want.
All right, so we are back inside, a little musical interlude in between there, and just cool down the vibes, and we are back on the inside. So everybody, welcome back.
Yes, come back to the discussion. Somebody hinted at it. I think it was Randy, so maybe I'll start with him. Randy and the young page, De Leon, talked about the kind of damage that this incident, unresolved and incidentally, it has been noted by the Minister of Finance that he's asking the central bank, which is a different kind of story, as to how this money was paid. I presume he has not said it, but behind that question, you could pay out $1 million to a participant who come from abroad, and we have manufacturers and businessmen who are screaming all the time for foreign exchange. But we will allow the minister to develop that matter for himself, and I'm sure it will be in the news when he does so. So let me ask the kind of impact, Randy, that you expect this incident will have on the job of the promoters, and indeed people like the artist Hamidullah signing up for Ras Commander, signing up for a performance into the future, saying I want my money up front, right? Right, Randy.
Yes, but if I could begin by saying, I'm kind of happy that a number of patrons would be getting a refund. I feel real, elated about that. A high percentage of, people who would have money saved and so forth would get back a refund. Generally speaking, a lot of pressures will be put on promoters in a number of different, areas. I think one key area will be sponsorship. Sponsors will be, looking at you hard and measured to ensure what happened at cartel don't happen to them, because a lot of money was lost in that regard. A lot of vendors would have paid to vend, would have purchased items to sell food and so forth. They failed. A lot of sponsors came in with in-kind deals and so forth. They would have lost a lot of money. But it's part of the venture of show business. They always say there's no business like show business. So I expect things to move along fastly and things will start to happen again. I think you will see a lot of local shows, which is good, because it's always cheaper and more affordable to do local events. So that will help. I'm seeing where Sizzler is doing a show on Saturday. I am kind of disappointed in the sense that I made a comment that Sizzler should allow Trinidad to recover from that reggae disaster, and he should go back to Jamaica. And generally speaking, I feel our citizens should give reggae a little break. Give them a little break and let Trinidad catch themselves. Start to love up the music. The radio station could start to play a heavy diet of local music. So this Vibes Cartel scenario, I feel it happened, and it happened for a purpose. God is a good God, and He show you things in certain ways. So we just have to look at the signs and try to do better.
Yeah. What does a promoter do, Randy, when something like this happens? There's a big controversy over it. He loses in terms of reputation, and his pocket is empty thereafter. What do you do in circumstances like that? I don't know if you have ever been in that situation.
But you have to regroup fast, and you have to know your financial standing. You have to know if you're taking a big risk, the chances are you could lose everything. And with show business, the bank don't lend you any money to invest in shows because it's high risk. So you have to know, what is the nature of the business. Mm-hmm. You can't take too much of chances, but if you're in it, you have to go all the way. You have to, take your chances like what the guy did. Keep your head high, think positive, and things can happen.
as the saying goes, you bang your jaw and you walk away, right?
Yes.
It's possibility.
Yes, but it was important to clear your name and pay your outstanding bills as best as you could, to move forward, because we know with these big bills hanging over your head, nobody want to do business with you. So you have to be mindful of that.
PH, what is going to be the next move of the association going forward to get over this reputational disaster?
So before we have, any other big shows, which I know some of them are coming up, it's the sort of mid-year break period coming up. So that's always a very busy time for the event sector in a bunch of ways. It's BAM launch season. The association plans to lead its members in a very deep consultative process with all of the state and non-state stakeholders we have conversations about how do we get legislation drafted. What arrangements are we going to make for policy to be changed, amended, and created to ensure that vendors, promoters, artists, and patrons are protected from these types of things happening in the future? One of your guests earlier on, I think it was Mr. Isaac, spoke of systematic failure. And we can only do our best to ensure that the systems we put in place to govern how these events are conducted is strong. Strong enough that we don't have these incidents, and that if we have these incidents, there is a clear path to redress and reparation for everyone. In the context of the reputational damage over time, our continued success in conducting events is what is going to rebuild the public's trust in the sector. We just have to keep doing it and doing it well. Not every event is done well. Some of them, there are challenges. It's not often, in the context of the amount of events that we have, it is certainly the minority as opposed to the majority. We just have to keep doing well. We have to make sure that every time we have events, it goes well, it's done properly. We continue to be the professionals that we are in Trinidad and Tobago when it comes to hosting events.
What is the response of the sponsor? The sponsor might well take the position, and there was one sponsor involved who made some statement. I don't want to call name, at least it's the wrong person. The sponsor might take.
It was Angostura.
Yes. The sponsor might take the position. What the hell? I can live without promoting this event or that event or the other. Let me just stay away from that and keep the integrity of my product intact, rather than investing it in something that can go down the drain like this one has.
That is a very possible outcome, and another very unfortunate one. Those are the types of things that we need to ensure that we protect against. And that is why the systems, the laws, the rules, the policies, and the professional conduct and the business-like etiquette of everybody involved has to be maintained, so that we can preserve all of those avenues of economic activity and revenue generation. That's why it's so critical for us to get the rules and the policy in place, because look at the amount of people and things that have fallen down like dominoes following this event. Look at the kind of debate it has sparked. Look at the level of scrutiny into the business practice and the principles of event producers and artists that has been brought down as a consequence of this.
Mm-hmm. What about the artists now? We have 3 of them here, 2 full-time and 1 partial, and now and again. Give your partner a little chat there. But Hamidullah and Commander, how do you as artists respond to this? Go into an arrangement. Well, it may not be this particular promoter, but to some other promoter. Leave Randy out of it, because we know that you will big him up already. How do you go into this feeling that this could happen to me, partner?
Well, if I could go before us, Commander, Tony, let me first of all commend you for a wonderful program. Very well done. I want to take a page from his page. Forgive the pun. With respect to the whole question of professionalism, which I agree with. But I want to ask her to pay particular attention to the question of development of the artist. Because in that scenario too, you have a whole question of paying your dues. And these people also need to be protected and at the same time be encouraged to develop. Okay, I hope I make my point there. The next aspect I have is with respect to how we, particularly Californians, see ourselves working with artists, promoters like Randy and others. Somehow, we always tend to feel that, listen, we could work it out with all the respect of professionalism and that kind of thing, and that makes us vulnerable all the time. Thank God that Randy Glasgow is not being called in that negative way, but we have quite a few others who have no level of respect or regards for us as artists. And we maintain, as Raskamanda was saying, the bigger thing for us is our audience. So sometimes we go out there just with the audience in mind, and we go to the promoter after. Yeah? So that's my 2 cents inside of there.
Russ?
Yes, sir. Tony, you see, culture, and when I use the term culture in a broad sense, every nation, every society have the culture. But I mean, enough respect to Miss Page. And I think Miss Page on the right path. And I've learned a lot from listening to her discourse this evening. But we come from a culture where we love music, you know. That's what we like, you know. We like to sing, we like to perform. So unless we become a mega star, nobody doesn't see the 20% in we, you know. So we don't just be singing professionally. The competition come for Carnival, we enter the competition, blah blah blah. But there's a youthful crop that is coming up and recognize the need for legislation and all these different things this page have been talking about, that professionalism, management, and what have you. So that people like myself and Hami, when somebody call us to perform, we say, okay, where's the venue, blah, 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 how much you're charging? We just talk how much you're charging on the phone with them, you know. We ain't sending them I know manager and them kind of thing, you know. But it's something that we need to understand the business we are in, the business of music and what have you. So, as someone said before, you see, this event and this situation that Trinidad and Tobago have seen, man, it's welcoming. It was supposed to be. I mean, I speak about the tree of life. That was part of the book of life. Sorry, that was part of the book because things happen that we never really knew that it was that level now. Because we always see the fans first. No matter what the fans, them is the people that has make you, them could break you. Remember, if the fans don't like you could get toilet paper, you could get nobody coming, you could get boo. We one of the society, maybe the only society I know in music where people get toilet paper. I never see it nowhere else. So as artists, we always feel we owe it to the fans and them who come in. So hence the reason why the tournament, many of us, they say we politically tainted because we just sing for a particular audience and all the different things. But I welcome this event. I want to thank you for having me, and I must pay special commendation to Aston and Miss Page for the knowledge that they have delivered to us this evening. I feel it was welcoming and I really appreciate it. The only thing is that when the next person try to hire me, I want to talk US because they're very important.
The stage has been set, right? The stage has been set for that.
The stage set. Because if they tell me in my bank, I could only get 200. But I'm not getting, I don't, I ain't taking that no more. US or nothing.
I love that. Brass Commander, there is a question I want. I depart a little bit to everybody else. I depart a little bit from the discourse here. So I want to ask you for a long time. Where does Ras Commander come from? The name I'm talking about. Give me the genesis of that.
I used to chant in the late 80s. People like General Grant, Iowa used to go all about chanting was the thing now. After coming out of youth camp, I recognized the Rastafarian community. I became what we call a Rastafarian because I followed Rastafari Makonnen. Now the hair don't make you a Rastaman, right? It's the philosophy and the ideology.
Going inside.
Right. No, I'm not just going inside. What happened? You have to know who is Rastafari first. Rastafari Makonnen was His Imperial Majesty before he ascended to the throne. His name was Rastafari Makonnen. Now, Ras means leader or head in Ethiopia. In Trinidad, we connote the term Ras with a hairstyle. It is the only place in the world that do that. Everybody else would say he had dreadlocks, right? So that Marshall Father, when I started singing Monty, they invite me down to the band Ecstatic. Because I live in Queen Emancipaya, Marshall, and it was Kura Road. So when they sent for me because they hearing about this man chanting, and those days I just saying commander, because the chanter man in Jamaica, he used to be either Colonel Josie Wade, General this and Colonel this and all of that. So I say when I started the chant, I said, well, I go take the word commander, because I was a squad commander in youth camp.
Okay.
So when I started chanting and singing with the band, I did a little stage with the band. I used to sing 2 songs, Loving Papa and Stalin Born Them. Right? And Monty said, well, you're a Rasta man. You should be Ras Commander. The only Ras in those days in the art form, I think, was Ras Ailey and Shorty Eye. So I said, yeah, well, no problem. And I took the sobriquet Ras and added on to the commander. And then when I got to find out from fellow Calypsonian, there was a commander already spelling him Commander, and decided to spell it Kommanda. So it become Ras Commander. And I did the legend behind the name.
Wonderful piece of history there. We
Thank you.
have another man. I don't know if you know Ras, but we have another man with a glorious history. Also, through his father. Actually, there are 2 people here who have glorious histories to their father. And Hamidullah is one of those persons. If he don't tell you, we're taking a little bit of a diversion. We'll come back, don't worry. But Hamidullah's father is the great Pandil Abastid. People may not know Hamidullah. Who was Pandil Abastid? Tell them.
Well, Andrew Pandil Abastid was one of the people who was chosen by the government in 1951 to go to the British festival. He was a panist, he was a pan tuner, and it take about 12 people to go, and he was one of them going forward.
But what was it? What was the name of the band? What was the name of the effort?
He was the captain of Hill 16, the band that he was chosen from. Right. And the band he went to was Taspo. The Trinidad Percussion Orchestra in the festival in London in 1951.
Right. Yeah. So that is an important history. A man from Taspo, and he has a brother who dances in front of every effort at steel band and mass and so on. They can't leave him out at all.
Oh, that's Carl. Yeah, that's my brother Carl. Yeah. He's a masquerader too. Yes. Yeah.
He always playing some kind of big mass and so on.
Yeah. A lot of magazines have him from front of the picture and that kind of thing too.
I am raising this not just out of fun, but because sometimes we don't know the real heroes of this place, and we run after all kind of little Mickey Mouse people who said to be heroes. A colleague of mine was writing about, meeting Dwight York and Russell Latapy in England, and how the people around were fawning after them. The great footballers of a period in English football, and we pay the kind of honors that we should. One of your colleagues, Hamidullah, sang about that.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't
treat heroes.
You shouldn't treat heroes, so yeah, man.
But one thing about it, if I can interrupt you, is that clearly I like me touching on it because we as a society that of letters, particularly in Kaiso. If you win no crumb and that kind of thing, nobody taking you on, no, you doesn't make sense, you have no value on it. So we thanking for people like you who have that sense of understanding to appreciate those of us who might have no title, but have done a lot of work and deserve some mention of worthiness because of your contribution. So thank you again for that plug.
Absolutely. And you may not see this very well, but I went up there and got a book. And if you could make out anything, this is Taspo in London.
Taspo, boy.
With the Sergeant Griffith, the musical director, who was a Bajan, incidentally. in front of the bar.
That is history, man. That is history.
Yeah, serious man, serious matter.
That should be in the school bag. That should be in the books in every school bag. This that history.
Reading all kind of thing. The other person is the lady Paige de Leon. She has a very famous father.
Oh yes, Leo de Leon.
Ay, boy, somebody.
Yeah.
Leo,
footballer Leo?
No. She was an announcer. Leo de Leon. He was one of the favorites as a young man growing up. Listen to Leo de Leon. I want to thank Paige for having a wonderful father. Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks.
So we identified some heroes. Askan, you have any heroes in your family, boy?
Yeah, I have personal heroes, and my family's service has always been in education. So
yeah,
principals, district supervisors, dating right back to probably, I don't know, 1950 something. My family was traditionally in farming, so Pa Isaac from Manzanilla.
That's why you're bright.
yeah. I want to agree with Tony that guidance really shocked me when I end up in a court meeting, and I was really impressed with your knowledge. Accept me, brother. I was really impressed.
Yeah,
no, but Raz and Tony, let me to say this. So Randy can't get away, Randy was a national footballer, youth man,
Sorry, so I get to find out that recently.
Oh, no, Randy.
You know about that, boy, Randy. You never tell me about that, boy. What team you played for?
We played football, college football with Ian Fraser and those guys at Bocarapo. Yes, and then we went on to play. At the same time, we played cricket for Trinidad, Chelsea level.
What?
We won the Chelsea.
I don't know you in that context, man. I mean, football and cricket in my life, and that's slacking there, man.
we was big on the cricket, but the cricket was so hard, but it was tough. I mean, we got the exposure playing with Trinidad. We played one game against Courtney Walsh and those guys, and only then I realized how tough cricket was, and I said, nah, but I'm do something else. with Phil Simmons, Gus Logie, those are my teammates.
Randy, you're going up in value there, boy. I didn't know that So we had a moment of recognition and some fun and so on. So let's wind down now as to, and we always have to look to the future as to what is to happen. I think there has been some talk about it being a good, if you like, catharsis for the whole industry to move forward in a more professional way. Paige has been talking about legislation that is required. Aston talking about the administrative aspects of it that has to be put in place, etc., etc. So, Paige, lead us off. Look into the future.
So, looking to the future, our first response is going to be consultation. We really want to have frank and realistic conversations with all of our stakeholders, the ones that make the policy and the ones who execute the policy. That's the first thing. The second thing is we need some kind of fit for purpose modern legislation that puts us in a position where our industry is regulated in a way that is for the day we're living in. A lot of what we would have discussed and a lot of what we have to treat with is based on things of the past that no longer serve us. And the only way for us to ensure that we don't have a repeat of this vibes cartel thing is to look towards putting proper structure in place so we can function and we can grow. And anybody, young, old, green, black, or white, can walk into the industry, read the playbook, and make a go of it. Entrepreneurship is risky. As I said before everyone joined the program, when an entrepreneur decides to become an event producer, they shoulder all of the risk from start to finish on their own with no support. Commercial banks don't fund and lend money for events. These are things that people do out of love, out of passion. They mortgage their homes, they sell their cars, they refuse to pay children's school fees, they borrow money from friends, they do all sorts to be able to be a part of this industry. So the love is not just on the side of the people who are the performers and the entertainers. And we need to try and find a way to make sure that people are protected. That's really the key here. The big trauma is the public was not protected. The promoter, I'm not sure, what he thinks about his lot. I am quite certain that the team that manages Vibes Cartel and works to make Vibes Cartel the artist work feel that they were not protected. We need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And we also need to make sure that whatever we do, Brand Trinidad and Tobago, which is the most long-standing and long-serving element of the brand proposition, is protected at all times and at all costs.
Okay, Hamidullah?
Well, I want to make a plug in the presence of my vice president, that is Ras Commander, Tuco, to Mr. Randy Glasgow, who we know fully well, very knowledgeable, and could make a better contribution towards taking us forward in the same scenario that Ms. Page is talking about. So I'm saying publicly, I asked Randy to step up, because we have a lot of people on the sideline talking all the time, but nobody putting up their hand, So I want to put Randy on the spot. If is not a member as yet, become a member of TUCO and lend me some expertise to send the thing forward. Thank you very much.
Commander.
Yeah. Once again, I must commend Miss Page. I love the last part about protection of people, other people beside the big artists and whoever. Because we need to protect the people through that coming through the turnstile. One question to Miss Page, in terms of policy, does the government have to legislate, or your organization presenting to them documents of legislation that you would like to see?
So in the past, what we've done is we went around the world and we looked for those places where legislation existed that we felt could be reasonably incorporated into Trinidad and Tobago's model. We can't go to a place like Australia and try to incorporate their legislation to moon, even though they are a Commonwealth nation. It is not sensible, but we can look at Jamaica. We can look at Barbados. We can look at some other nations that are like us, small island developing nations with cultural products and fruits that are reasonably new, that are now trying to launch themselves onto the global competition market. So we did that. We brought it together. Apologies. We did that. We brought it together, and we did make a presentation to a former Attorney General about what we think is something that they could look at in the context of drafting legislation. We are not lawyers, but what we know is this is how the thing could work. These are the realities. This is what we need to be able to function and to grow and to set up that nice big economic umbrella that the event producer sets up. Because just like the artist who is not a single man walking on a stage and singing a song, an event producer is the umbrella for hundreds of people, the people who build stages, the people who sew the costumes, the people who do the executions for the sponsorship, the people who clean, the people who provide food, the security companies, the floor man, the stage man, the runners, the stage manager. It's a lot of people that are, subsumed under that umbrella. And so we have to speak to all of the people and have a proper understanding of what everybody needs to get along in a reasonably good way. You're always going to have problems. The legislation, the policy is not going to serve everybody. Some people are going to be upset. Some people will feel they're being hard done by. But we have to have something from which to work, some kind of hymn sheet.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Back to you, Mr. Tony.
Randy.
Yes, sir.
That's the projections into the future from the perspective of the promoter.
Well, I wanted to deal with something that kind of occupy our thoughts like from about 3 weeks ago, we sat quietly and, trying to figure out, being in the entertainment industry, what could we do to help Trinidad and Tobago scenario with the shortfall of gas and oil earnings at this point in time. And, I was asking myself, I reached out to a couple of people, and Paige, I will reach out to you too, and we could share it with the membership, is what about Trinidad being, a country of carnival, trying to introduce a second carnival in Trinidad? We have the carnival machine, we have the ecosystem and so forth. We have the main carnival in February. Tobago is in October. But what about a second carnival in August? Somewhere along that lines to help our country earn some good money in the shortfall of gas and oil. So this is something I want to explore because I feel we have the capacity. I reached out to 2 fellow promoters who entered heavy, and they felt somehow we might be able to fulfill 2 carnivals, but it could be a carnival with a difference. The main carnival is in February. We do a different concept, but you want the whole nation involved in a situation where the country can earn some revenue. We can put some heads in beds, do it differently, if it's festivals, wherever it is. But, that is something I want to give some serious consideration. And I would ask the fellow promoters, through Paige to get a comment to see where it can go.
Randy, as you talk about that, there is a ready-made day in August for that kind of thing, Emancipation Day, Independence Day.
We're talking, 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and the case maybe where you go have your calypso tents and you wear your fetes and you wear your different things. It's a second carnival, and we are the home of carnival. So why Las Vegas, and there's something big every week, every month, and we Trinidad and Tobago, we are the ecosystem for carnival. Let's give it a shot. But it dependent on what some of the main players are saying and where the headspace are. But it's something I want to pursue.
So I am saying that the theme can be around this whole emancipation, independence. We have something ready-made. I like the idea. I have thought on occasion that perhaps we have too many carnivals, but if one would have focused on something nation building, and I'm not saying that our carnival as is not nation building at all. I'm not making that point, but I'm saying that we can put another element into it. So I want to go to Mr. Isaac now to talk about the bigger picture for the entertainment industry. Maybe entertainment has not been taken seriously enough as an industry on its own. If you think about the United States, nobody has to tell anybody about the entertainment industry in the United States, filmmaking, radio, television, etc., big, multi-billion-dollar business. Can we set off to make this thing that we've created something of an industry which, and I always say, is that our business community, the people, I don't want to talk them too much, but they buy and sell stuff, and they don't think seriously of production of what has some benefit to Trinidad and Tobago. So let me hear you on that, Mr. Isaac.
Well, I'm happy that you took me in, and I was listening to the contributions of the fellow panelists, and you call me Mr. Isaac, but you should call me Aston because I have to call it.
I'll pick you up.
But
Go ahead.
And I said everybody, I don't know, I feel like I have to put the handle your name because of your work that you have done in the industry. So I mean, full respect, kudos. Ms. Paige, your contribution today, as noted by other panelists, was absolutely fantastic. Several areas you have been spot on in terms of what is required. The legislative aspect, even as the president of the copyright, Trinidad and Tobago, which we didn't have time to kind of expand on the copyright landscape of this, but I've been fighting tremendously. I think Ras Commander, I forgot he was in that meeting where I was fighting for members in COT, as a member of COT and a member of TTCO, because it's different rights being represented. And having persons understand what that entails, having promoters understand that separation of rights and the responsibility to pay. having conversations and well, successful conversations and negotiations with the Media Association of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm saying these things because what I want persons to understand, and it's a comprehensive approach that requires all stakeholder input. So you're going to have to be comfortable getting uncomfortable. It means that if you don't get along with, let's say, Ainsley King from Tuco, you still have to talk to Ainsley. Let's say in the Promoters Association, some promoters are outside of your membership. You may have to assess the depth of your membership. Is it 24 people? Is it 30 people? How many promoters are actually active? How do I relate with the producers? How do I relate with the songwriters? How do I engage with the musicians, the dancers, the core input rental agencies? How many rental agencies are there to give capacity for stage development? Are we considering bolstering businesses like Renter Amp and other tent rentals and other tank song company? How are we supporting these contributors to the sector to become better, to improve the types of stages that they introduce? How are we looking at the skill set of the creatives and the artists? Then how are we investing in the promoters? Are we going to create a financial incubator system for promoters so that they can have an opportunity to not have to put their house up to be able to generate some funds to put on a show? Are we going to utilize government guarantees as we would have done with SME loans? So these are the conversations that need to be discussed. And these are the sector, it's a national sector approach. So what I did for you, Tony, I was commenting a couple of weeks ago on some of the issues regarding NCC and also on the issue regarding copyright with the Black Stalin matter. I made some very strong comments on that as well. And I shared with you. I shared with you on WhatsApp an NCC document detailing. It's a research I did over the past 5 years, detailing the entire sector along with Dr. Michael Brown, a lecturer from the University of Washington, D.C. I would have paid and commissioned a study and undertook the redevelopment personally, financially on my own, looking at how do we fix sectors. I did some lectures as well at the Carnival Studies Masters class with Dr. Josephine Torrell Brown on this area as well, in terms of working entrepreneurship and building an ecosystem, a business ecosystem that can export the carnival. So I like when Randy says 2 carnivals, I say 96 carnivals. So it means I have to make my export product one that is easily digestible, and I have to empower the agency that has that export responsibility, which is NCC, with the necessary tools, to not just spend 100 million, as Randy said, on infrastructure at this stage, but to have the right mindset for the redevelopment. I even spoke with the minister on this matter regarding how NCC's restructure should work and what are some of the legislative requirements. So because we're in this space, I'm sharing that document with you, Tony, so that you can share with everyone who was an attendee in this meeting. At least some level of consensus can be built on how we can build a robust way forward. So it's, for me, I'm so thankful that I'm given the opportunity to share this, because I not only took an academic approach, but I took an approach as a practitioner, and then I got myself involved from a ground level to an executive level, understanding the nuances, because everybody has a position, as a broadcaster, as a photographer, as a dancer, they all have concerns. So we have to have that holistic vision as to how we can grow, and then utilize that consensus that we would gather to create a path. So I've given a framework that could bring that to the table, and I'm allowing you to share it with everyone as much as possible.
Yeah, I sure will. And just to say, I am always convinced that the entrepreneurs of the carnival industry, of the entertainment industry, must come from within the industry. You can't wait on people who are into, buy and sell arrangements. Maybe I'm doing them a disservice by calling them that, into commercial trade, to get into this kind of novel, something that is different. but something that has been happening all over the world. This is not new. The entertainment industry in the United States, in England, in Europe, etc., big business. When I see steel bands parading in Japan, I say, what the hell is going on in Trinidad and Tobago? But that's another story. Maybe we'll bring back some of you for a full discussion outside of Vibes Cartel to talk about the entertainment industry that we have
Tony,
this for a long time. Yes, Ras.
please allow me before I leave. I can't say this enough. I am totally blown away by the level of knowledge Aston Isaac is giving us this evening. And one day, my brother, Tony, grandson or great grandson, might be having an interview like this, and your grandchild might be part of the panel. And the grandson will say, so who are you? Who do you have as a family prolific? And she'll be able to say, my grandfather was a brilliant philosophical, cultural scientist. And he was right.
All right. Chalo, music in the place.
Thank you everybody for being part of the show today. It's greatly appreciated. All right. So as we go, we thank everybody for being on the show today. Remember, this is your Drive Time Exchange right here on New Era TT Radio.
People dancing through time and space. Is our energy when we come down here? They say all we know is to jump and wave. It's in every creed and race. And the carnival is the holy grail. I feel I could stay right here, living the man soul, yeah. I feel I could stay right here. Look how the mass are well. Everybody charge up, we going high up, full of energy. Everybody charge up, we going high up, full of energy. Whoa, yeah. Nipples raising, we vibrating. Yeah. Nipples raising, we are the ground shaking. Look around, it's all aware. Jumping up past Pamela. Tell the bad vibes not today. Love is the only energy. Look around, it's all aware. Every hand up in the air. Tell the bad vibes not today. Love is the
Wake up with the Nett Radio Breakfast Show. Rise and shine with Wendell Stevens and Richard Raghubarsing, weekdays, from 6 o'clock to 9 a.m. Start your day feeling good, energized, and informed as we tackle the biggest issues of the day, get you where you need to be on time, and keep you in